Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here, and today we are covering Lyra. Now, this is going to be some analysis of Tier 10 European gameplay. I played a lot of games with the Clash mid laner Disowned today, and a lot of people are asking me, is Lyra still good? Do you think Lyra is in the meta? Can I still play Lyra? And yes, you can. The very short answer to that is yes, but let's go through a game and we can talk about all of the little individual things that still makes Lyra a really decent hero in the captain position. So when I play captain, in solo queue especially, there are two builds that I like to go at. I either go boots contract, just to make sure that I can heal and sort of make up for mistakes, especially if I don't have a heal, having a contract is really important. Or I go boots oak cart, and oak cart just builds into so many different things as a captain that it's just a really... I guess like it's a puzzle piece item, you can just build it into whatever you want really. And because Crucible is often just the first item for captains, I often like to go from my oak cart into a Crucible. So that's the reason that I build those items. The boots specifically, captains have to roam across the map a lot, and I like to have that mobility. I think it's really, really important. So obviously having the boots early on helps. As you can see here, this is the standard tier 10 meta, trading the CP buffs. It's really funny because you basically end up swapping jungles. Their mid laner and their captain go for your CP buff and rotate round, and you go for their CP buff and rotate round. It's just because of the 2v1 meta that opens up on the bottom side. Because you have more members on that side of the map, that's often what ends up happening. But you can see here, we actually came out on top because of that Tony kill early on, and our Reza stayed top with the Glaive instead of rotating bot with the Idris. And that's a really, really important thing that gave us a massive lead early on here, because they stole away the entire top side jungle away from Tony. And because we stole away his blue side jungle, the Tony now has nothing, no rotations to make early on, which is going to limit his leveling and limit his gold income, which means he's not going to gank. It's going to limit the 2v1 lane a little bit, and Glaive gets a really easy start. So he did a really good job there with that specific rotation. Massive, massive props to the Glaive. He actually practically single-handedly won this game from the start, but obviously it's not over just yet. And as you can see, the Tony tried to gank mid, forced me to use my flask, but the best thing that we can do is try and trade flasks here, and I believe we got the Lorelei to burn hers. Another little tip for you guys, always time flasks of your opponents. They are 2 minutes, just like all the jungle camps, so when you see them pop a flask, know that you've got 2 minutes to continue to be aggressive. If you already have your flask, or your flask is still left up, that's obviously great. Having the flasks up are important. But if you have the advantage of your opponent and you know they don't have a flask, try and be as aggressive as possible. Even if you sometimes take bad trades, it's okay to trade negatively sometimes, because you always have that flask to back you up. And obviously getting people low forces them out of lane, and if you have that flask or you have the sustain like you do with a Lyra, then you're going to be becoming better off overall in terms of the laning phase. Another piece of information to note on the map right now is the deep vision that we've got down in their red side jungle. It means that if Tony does rotate out of lane, we'll be able to see him. We also know that the weapon power buff is up right now as well. So if we want to be aggressive, we could be. Reza being on the bottom side of the map means it's very unlikely that we're going to try and 2v1 the Tony and the Vox. But you can see Glaive making moves already into that red side jungle. And with the Lorelei and the Samuel being fairly low, I see Glaive going aggressive. I see the Samuel rotate through the river. I think Samuel's gone to help them. So I go straight up, I pop my boots, get a heal onto the Glaive, which basically gives us a win in this team fight. And Disowned rotated as well. You can see the Lorelei with no flask goes down very quickly to a basic attack from Disowned. And we end up having the Reza pop up here as well, who stole their CP buff, by the way. And this is a really, really good engage for us. We did a massive deny on their red buff. We got the Glaive out alive with the red buff, and he's going to take the healing tree on too. The only thing that we traded was our CP buff and our bottom side jungle. This was a massive mistake from their Samuel. The only reason I went out of the lane with haste was because I thought the Samuel was going to help the Glaive, help his teammates who were getting invaded by the Glaive. He actually ended up just taking our CP buff and our doubles, which actually put them much further behind than you would see usually. So Glaive made a really aggressive move. I love solo queue players that can be aggressive but know their limits, and the Glaive did a really good job there. We backed him up and we came out on top because of that particular engage. But it was in part due to a mistake from the Samuel. If the Samuel had joined, I don't think that would have gone as well for us. The Reza made a nice rotation as well. Got to give credit to him. I see the Idris actually ended up soloing Bayou, who was on the Arden. Obviously not a great matchup for the Arden overall, especially if he's not getting too much help, as you don't in the top lane. But I was a little bit too late to help out. So what I do instead is I just help push the wave in. I'm helping Idris push the wave in because it's a little bit quicker than if he did it himself, and that denies more minions from Bayou. When I say deny, denying minions is pushing the minions to turret and allowing the turret to kill them when the enemy is not in range. Therefore, they don't get any gold from last hitting, and they don't get any experience from being near the minions when they die. So that is the reason that you like to do this, especially when you've killed an enemy, is because you want to deny creeps from them. And that's what denying creeps means, or denying minions. It just means denying experience and denying gold, because they are dead, and the turret is taking it all. And it's a really important part of MOBAs in general. And in Vainglory, very important too, especially in the solo lanes. So that's a really good little tip, especially when you've just killed someone in lane. Even if you're low and you know where the enemy jungler is, if you feel like you're safe, always try and push that lane in to deny the enemy experience and gold. Just a little tip for you there. So you can see here that we take another rotation away from them. We only get the CP buff though, we don't get anything much more than that. I have a little tip for you as well, just based on what I bought here. If you're a captain and you're ahead, try to go tier 2 boots. Apparently, Leon taught this to Disowned, and it's something that I've been doing recently as well. Tier 2 boots allows you to roam more effectively at much greater speeds, which allows you to impact more lanes, especially if you're a high-impact captain like a Lyra, and you have a big heal for a laner. Really important to do that. So as you can see here, the Celeste is rotated up towards the top. The Samuel and the Lorelei are pushing me in here. So the best thing that I can do is just try and clear the waves. I just want to make sure they don't get as much damage onto turret. And you can see here, I've managed to hold it up a little bit, and Celeste comes back in time to take those away. I see the Samuel down the bottom, rotating towards the Idris. I try and cut off their escape. It was a bit of a bad portal from me. Honestly, the better portal would be to go straight on top of the Samuel. And as you can see, with Bayou rotating up, we decided to back off there. If I reflect on where my portal should have gone, I should have put it straight on top of them, but I thought I was cutting their escape off into the CP side jungle. But what it's actually resulted has been it's just being able to zone away the Samuel and the Lorelei. Disowned kind of overextended a little bit there, but overall, we were just trying to zone them away from getting back to the mid lane, and as you can see, they missed a big wave in that mid lane portion of the map, and that allowed Disowned to get a small experience advantage, because you see he's level 8 compared to Samuel's level 7. I actually portal in here because I'm trying to punish the Samuel. He sidesteps really nicely and pops flasks, so I've noted that. So you've got to, again, note when the flasks get popped. Got to be careful. And that means he's now going to be very vulnerable, especially now that Celeste is level 8 and has the extended heliogenesis range. I have a heal, so obviously I can help Disowned if he takes damage here. And the flask getting popped by the Lorelei means they are very weak defending this mid lane turret. So I'm going to look to be as aggressive as I physically can here, because there's no point in me not being aggressive, simply because we are just so far ahead. You can see they actually ended up popping the Crucible as well there. Disowned tries to go for the snipe, but obviously at level 1, ultimately it's not going to have a huge amount of impact. The most important outcome of this, though, is that Samuel tries to go for his CP buff when he's low and doesn't have a flask. And instead of just sitting and helping the Celeste, I'm going to zone the Samuel away to make sure we absolutely secure that for ourselves. And again, really important, denying CP buff away from the enemy mid laner really limits their power potential. And Samuel spikes really hard in the mid game, so limiting his power potential at this point in the game is really important. So now at this stage, we've got Disowned, who's post level 8, which is obviously the level spike that Celeste needs. He's ramping up in items. They're going to try and go for our CP buff. That's a really, really bad idea, because again, the Samuel doesn't have flask, he's low. I have a lot of healing. We're going to try and flank the enemy here, who are going in onto our Reza and our glaive. I made a bit of a mistake there by isolating the Celeste, but she was so far ahead that she managed to just be fine about it. I'm going to try and go for the Lorelei, simply because you can see the Tony there, zoning the Celeste away, so Celeste trying to keep max range, which is an important thing to do. I should have Crucibled the Tony ultimate. I did it a little bit late, as you can see, but regardless, we ended up still getting the kill. Tony does have Serpent's Mask, which means he's going to sustain quite a lot, but luckily he didn't quite get those basic attacks off, and the burst damage from my B managed to take him out. So I ended up getting 2 kills there, and pick up a capacitor plate, which is now going to give me a big spike in terms of healing potential. My third item is going to be a fountain, although I think ideally I want to go for war treads before that, now simply because we're at the point in the game where Rez is going to want to dive, Idris is going to want to dive, Celeste is going to want to be able to peel backwards, Glaive is going to want to dive. All of these guys really benefit from movement speed. So obviously having that movement speed with the War Treads is going to be important. Big fight going on here. We already see Samuel pop his flask, and that means it's an easy pickup for the Reza and the Idris. Little bit of damage tapped in by the Celeste ultimate. And now we have two decisions. Go for the mid lane turret or go for Ghostwing. Lots of people crowded around that mid lane turret, so it's probably much easier for us to then rotate down to Ghostwing. You can see the Vox has made his way down from the top lane, but with Tony showing, it's actually a pretty good idea to go straight for Ghostwing now. A lot of the team weren't super for it though. You can see pings coming down, especially the Celeste, but not many other members of the team were kind of sort of collecting around that area, which meant that we couldn't really go for it without the sort of the support of our team. So the best thing that we can do is, again, try to deny the blue buff away from the enemy. You can see Samuel just manages to tap that one. I should have been body blocking that realistically, and it just means now we have to back off because Samuel has got his CP buff, Celeste does not. And we have to be super careful. I can portal in, obviously, but I have to be there with the Reza. And with Celeste having taken a bit of damage already, just much easier to back off here. Try and collapse around that mid lane and just make sure that we're chilling out. Unfortunately, we can't do much to save the glaive. And with our Reza also being dead, now's not the best time in the world to fight. Although Idris does feel like 1v5ing, which is obviously something that can happen. And with his ultimate, he managed to pick up at least one kill. A good rotate in from Arden, but we're just going to back off. Like, we don't want to commit too hard to this scenario. And the reason we don't want to commit too hard to this scenario is that we don't have the burst damage from Reza, so we're not going to be able to dive to the backline easily. Don't really have the peel potential with the glaive afterburn, so the Celeste is going to be a bit weaker because I can't peel for every single member, or I can't peel every single member away from the Celeste. So the best thing that we can do is do what Celeste does best, use her excessive range to put pressure on the enemy. Vox is my biggest concern at this point in time, so I'm not concerned about any member of the enemy team apart from Vox. I portal in, ignoring Vox for the most part, just simply because I don't think he can deal enough damage. He's trying to stack up on me. I still have my flask though, so I don't think he's going to deal enough damage at this point to be able to warrant much going wrong, and I end up killing him with my sigil. So I think just forcing a man advantage against the Vox is the best idea there, because we had the burst damage to be able to blow him up. Even if he had the breaking point stacks building up, he was focusing on me, and I still had my flask. So I think the best idea was what I kind of pulled off there, which was portaling in onto the Tony to make sure he was dead, then killing the Arden to make sure the Vox couldn't kite correctly, and then we had a 3 versus 1 man advantage, and all we needed to do was make sure the Celeste and the Reza hit their skills, and the Vox was going to absolutely die. So that was the best decision that I think we made at the end of that fight. And overall, we come out ahead again once more. So I'm 3-0-4 at this point in time. So having a pretty good game. I think Lyra's healing is still really strong. Capacitor Plate, Crucible, a really good 2-item spike. And you can see I'm working towards my Fountain now. So once I get my Fountain, that'll provide me even more teamfight heal potential. And again, the prime targets that I'll be looking to keep alive are Reza and Celeste. That's really the two targets that I want to make sure survive as much time as possible in the fights. Idris has got really good survivability with his ultimate, so I don't need to focus on him as much. But the Reza is a lot of burst damage, really strong at chasing down the backline. And the Celeste is obviously our main artillery in terms of just the main overall damage potential. Big team fight happening here. I can't really get too far in, and we've already taken a lot of damage. So the best thing I can do is just try and portal away. We kind of got slaughtered by the Samuel, and without the Idris being there, we just took a fight that really wasn't worth it. To be honest, the major reason that we lost that was that Samuel hit a load of really good malice and verdicts with his ultimate. So that was the main reason we ended up losing. And unfortunately, we just clumped up too much for it. Not much I could do in that situation. The only thing that I would have changed was having myself block Bayou's ultimate by holding my B a little bit longer. Idris manages to get one kill here, and with the Samuel being pretty low, we might have stopped them doing Black Claw. So Idris's sacrifice might have actually kept us from losing Black Claw here, but we do end up losing the mid lane turret. So we gave up probably 50% of the advantage that we'd built for ourselves over the first 10 minutes of this game, which kind of sucked, obviously. Kind of want to make sure you maintain advantages for as long as possible. But we didn't lose Black Claw, which is really important, and Ghostwing is still on the table. I still think we're stronger. I still think our composition overall is stronger. I think we still deal more damage. The only threat for me is Samuel, and then I'm concerned about Vox. Every other member of their team is just, like, useless. just in terms of overall damage and teamfight potential. We have got 4 single high damage target threats on our composition. We've got Reza, we've got Glaive, we've got Celeste, and we've got Idris. And then I'm there to be the supportive member for overall. They've only really got 2 threats, and the Vox actually has his Slumbering Husk popped really early here. As you can see, I portal in, make sure I block the Samuel ultimate, which is really important. End up using my Fountain really early, so I have pretty much used everything. The unfortunate thing here is that the rest of the composition is a little bit dead already, but the Vox overextends thinking he can get some kills, and that's really good for us. Because now the Tony comes in, I've got lots of heals going, everybody's starting to get a bit more healthy. They end up popping their Fountain, but we get the double kill. And as you can see, no one is focusing Celeste, because they don't really have anyone left to focus Celeste. With the Vox going down, they don't really have a proper diver. Tony doesn't deal enough damage to threaten. So as this game goes on, it's becoming more and more clear that our composition is just better. Like, they don't really have a way to kill Celeste. And if they do, they've got to get through a Glaive, a Reza, and an Idris, all of whom deal significant damage. So overall, because they don't have a true hyper carry, in my opinion, they're not going to be able to kill Celeste easily. And as you can see, now we have the time to go for Ghost Wing. Although the rest of the team are kind of spawning, so we didn't capitalize on it quickly enough. And that's something that I obviously wanted to make sure I was thinking about, is that they will have respawned by this point. You can see the respawns in the top of the map. I'm gonna use scout cams here, but the big mistake that we made is we started Ghost Wing without knowing where the enemy team was, and they instantly pop over. They commit, and I commit a little bit late here, so I made a massive mistake. I portaled in. The Reza kind of made a mistake. He walked straight back through my portal, as did the Idris. They really didn't need to go there. But overall, it was just a really bad mistake from us to go for the Ghost Wing when we didn't see anybody on the map. The Glaive was top lane. Now they have the potential to go for Ghost Wing and Black Claw. That was the major throw. Like, we could have thrown the whole game just from that one play. So obviously, don't do that, guys. Don't go for Ghost Wing when they're all up and you can't see them on the map and you don't have the vision to compensate. I also made a bit of a derpy portal, but also the Reza and the Idris made a bit of a derp as well. So you can see, to be honest, I think this Glaive single-handedly keeps us from losing Black Claw, because he draws Bayou up to the top lane, he blocks the Atlas, gets the kill onto Tony, and then starts to wail in on the Arden. He single-handedly stopped that Black Claw going over, and the Vox stays towards the bot lane as well. So it means that overall, we have good map pressure on the top side of the map, and with Vox being bot lane, I'm saying let's get with the Glaive, let's collapse on their team as best we can, try and get a number of kills, and then go for Black Claw ourselves. And that's kind of what you see is going on here. We get the kill onto the Ardent, which is pretty big, and the more and more that we can commit here, the better it is for us. So we can pretty much surefire go for Black Claw here, because their main damage dealer, Vox, is on the bottom side of the map. Their Samuel has been forced away. We still have our Reza, our Glaive, and our Celeste. I mean, this is basically a free objective, and I'm really glad that the team sort of collapsed on me with it. I'm waiting for the Samuel over the side here, because I can just portal in onto the Samuel if he gets too close. He actually gets warded away by the Celeste ultimate, and everybody else wasn't too keen on diving, so I just basically said, okay, let's chill out. Let's not go hardcore on try and kill the Samuel here. We got the Black Claw, and that was the main thing. And now we can start to siege with the Black Claw, because we've got a really good siege composition just with the Celeste by herself. And with me, I can heal through siege situations as well. Not really sure what the Idris is doing there. It was kind of a bit of an overextend. Very glad that he managed to back out. Overall, though, we don't want to commit too hard to this fight. We just want to make sure the Arden Gauntlet goes down. We wait for Black Claw to move on, and then we can start to go again. And that's what I did. I waited for the Black Claw to move on with the Arden Gauntlet going down and portaled in. Unfortunately, the rest of the team didn't quite have the same idea, but we managed to force them far enough away back. And Oriol on this Vox, I mean, he's pretty beastie. I can't really take him on here, so I'm just going to have to try and back off and let the Celeste do the work for me. And you can see she baits him with the ultimate there. That was so sick. Like, that was just such a good Celeste ultimate play. Like, hardcore baited him with the ultimate. I end up cleaning up the kill. And with Bayou being the only one left alive, and the Glaive in the middle of their base, this is just easy armories. Like, armories for days right now. And this essentially sets us up to win the game. There's no way that Bayou on an Arden is going to stop me and a Glaive with lots of sustain taking away these armories. We still have 8 seconds until Tony spawns, and realistically, he's not that much of a threat. And we've got 10 seconds till Vox spawns. So it's just a really easy way to get 2 armories, which sets up pressures in lane. And now we can focus on the bot side of the map, or finding a team fight and winning. What's even more important is that we end up taking more jungle away from the Tony, who realistically has had a really crappy time in this game. Like, he has not had any gold input. He's there for utility. They don't really have the damage to back up having a low damage composition. And you can see here with the weapon tree on up as well. We do need to be really careful though, simply because Vox is here and we get taunted in by the Tony. Glaive afterburns over the wall. He did get the weapon power buff, which is really important. This is the biggest derp of the game for me. Not really sure what Tony was doing. Like, just literally isolates himself, uses his bada bing, bada boom. Really nice block by the Reza. They did end up going in onto Disowned. I keep him alive with a heal and with a fountain. He told me on comms, he was like, I was pretty sure I was dead there. Luckily, the Reza is still alive and going ham, and then a really nice afterburn from the Glaive means we clean up this fight. The only thing that I'm trying to do here is heal as much as possible. And when my Celeste is down, I'm healing to try and make sure that my melee heroes have a speed boost to get onto their target. I have my portal in 2 seconds as well, which is a really easy portal out of the Arden ultimate, and that allows us to now set up onto Bayou and onto the Samuel. Don't think we're going to kill the Samuel, but we kill everybody else, and that basically sets us up to push in, try and win the game. You can see Legend there, nearly killing the Samuel, but the Flask ends up his demise. At this point, though, Vox up in 1 second. I'm saying to the Reza, absolutely no way that we can do this. Absolutely no way. Disown gets a sick cross-map snipe onto the Samuel there, which was awesome, by the way. And the best idea for us at this point in time is to reset, wait for everybody to respawn, go for Ghost Wing, and then try and end the game off that. That's really the best thing that we can do. Also, with Blacklaw respawning fairly soon, it's a pretty good idea to go for Blacklaw, because overall we're just in a stronger teamfight position. They have lots and lots and lots of shields, which makes Vox scary, but overall, we're in a really strong position. And I don't think that we can be contested on Blacklaw because Samuel's down, and the only other damage dealer is Vox. So I'm not worried about it just being Vox when Samuel's down, to be honest. Vox is not going to single-handedly carry. He did try and get the steal onto the Ghost Wing, but Vox is not going to single-handedly carry this game. And so, with the Samuel being down, it's a really easy time to go for an objective, and you can see Blacklaw spawning. We could push and go for a team fight, but overall, the safer option for me is go for Blacklaw, try and bait out Blacklaw if we can, which means try and force the enemy to react to us, and if they don't, just try and take Blacklaw and win the game. So it's like a win-win situation. They either have to react to us and team fight, or we just take Blacklaw and win the game. Get a scout come over the wall. We see the Vox. The Glaive commits, and so do I. This is mainly to try and stop them contesting Blacklaw, which they do. Tony just gets battered because he tries to bada bing into the middle of the Blacklaw pit. And this is the biggest derpy team fight ever. Vox is right in the middle of the team, but look at the amount of shields he's got. He's got Lorelei shield, he's got Arden's shield, he's got every shield physically available. The massive issue that he made, however, was the fact that he literally sat in the middle of the team fight. And unfortunately, he didn't really have anywhere else to go. But he was just in the middle of the team fight, didn't try to reposition, just let himself get battered left, right, and center. And overall, a really easy way for us to close out the game. But the heals on Lorelei are still super strong, guys. She's still a really strong hero in general, and I do recommend that you guys continue to play her if you like her. These are the builds, by the way. You can see standard Idris build. We went for a Shatterglass on Celeste because we were pretty far ahead, just looking for the strict burst damage. He also went for armor because the biggest threat to him, realistically, was the Vox. So he never usually goes for armor, but he went for armor because he knew that the Vox was the biggest threat to him. I went for Crucible, Capacitor Plate, Fountain, Rook's Decree, War Treads, and I was going for more. I didn't go for any armor simply because I didn't really need it, and there wasn't really that many Atlas Pauldrons targets, and if there was, I wasn't really supposed to be getting anywhere near them. So Vox was the only one that I'd consider Atlas Pauldroning, but I wasn't supposed to be getting near him, so what's the point in having Atlas Pauldrons? I would rather just have more heals to make my team more sustainable. We went for a Stormcrown double spell sword into full defense top lane Glaive. Absolute utility monster. Good wave clear. Good jungle steal potential. Really cool Glaive build. I really like it. You guys maybe want to give that a go. We went for a Stormcrown Reza jungle with teleport boots. He went for the Aftershock and the Broken Myth, which is a good combo. I've been told by most people now that the Aftershock and Clockwork combo is better, but overall, just a really solid Reza build, still has the damage to carry through to the late game. If you have a look at their builds, the Vox build with the Serpent's Mask, Breaking Point, and Tornado Trigger is the standard right now, but overall, they didn't really have the damage. Like, they just didn't have the damage. That was a really low damage Samuel build because he went for Spellfire, Frostburn, Clockwork. That's just no damage compared to the Celeste. You need a Dragon's Eye in there to help build up the damage, or you need a Shatterglass. It was just far too low damage compared to what we were doing. So that's it. That's the game that I had today with Lyra. I do think she's still really strong, guys. I do think you guys should consider playing her if you get the chance. And overall, I hope you guys enjoy Ranked on this patch. I'm kind of enjoying Ranked right now. I think it's really, really good. And I will see you next time.